Over the desk, we've got James Creedon, who's here for Media Watch.
Hi, Belle.
James. How are you?
Very well.
You've been looking at the press reaction in Austria, or around Europe, to the Austrian presidential election and the loss of the far-right candidate.
That's right. So it would have been the first far-right head of state in Europe. There was a lot of trepidation, a lot of concern with the rise of far-right parties across Europe. Generally, this would have been a sort of watershed moment. So a lot of headlines talking about relief across the EU at the far-right defeat in Austria, such as this headline in EUobserver.com. Süddeutsche Zeitung, the German daily, saying, well, Austrians actually didn't really want a Green Party candidate as the head of state because it was the Green candidate, Norbert Hofer, who won by a razor-sharp edge. The newspaper says many citizens voted for him simply to block the FPO far-right candidate. So it was sort of strategic voting, if you like. The Austrian paper Kronen Zeitung here showing with this graphic just how close it was. It was really essentially 50-50, just a tiny margin between the two. The Belgian cartoonist Sondron illustrating here the perfect equality, if you like, between the two candidates, which is somewhat ironic, seeing as you have a sort of a fluffy left-wing Green candidate on the left and getting almost equal votes to a far-right candidate who they're equating here, obviously, with fascism in that illustration. One quote here that was shared by Alex Henriot on Twitter, which is a comment by Michael Rossin. He says, I sometimes fear that people might think that fascism arrives in fancy dress worn by grotesques and monsters as played out in endless reruns of the Nazis. Actually, fascism arrives as your friend. It will restore your honour, make you feel proud, protect your home, give you a job, clean up the neighbourhood, remind you of how great you once were. So it's a little word of caution to the increasing part of the electorate that is voting far right, that fascism doesn't necessarily look like fascism, but essentially far-right parties have a lot of fascist tendencies.
And there's actually some comments online, quite a few comments online, that aren't so pleased with the result.
That's right. Indeed, you see the extent to which there are a lot of people on social media who support far-right parties, such as this tweet that was shared by Joseph Willits. Green is the colour of Islam. Now, of course, it was a Green Party candidate that won. That is a far-right supporter of the far-right National Front Party in France, basically saying you vote Green, it's a vote for Islam, for immigration, one imagines is what he's saying, because, of course, Austria was indeed on the front line of a big wave of recent immigration. But that is the sort of comment that you're finding on social media.
Well, it's a sense of kind of a division, isn't it? You're either with us or against us.
Exactly, and it is that polarised sort of political landscape across several countries in the region at the moment. This is, where is Austria, asks this tweet. Straight ahead, sirs. Thank you very much. So this is a tweet that is essentially fear-mongering, if you like, showing that voting Green Party and not voting far-right is akin to opening the floodgates to immigration. And there were quite a lot of tweets across social media of that kind of nature today. So it is somewhat concerning. I know that just before we move on, there was another person who was getting quite a bit of attention, an Austrian who was supporting the far-right. That is Felix Baumgartner, who is the famous skydiver who, for Red Bull, I think he still holds the world record, if you can call it a world record, a sort of universe record for diving out of some contraption way out in outer space. He was really publicly pushing the far-right candidate in the weeks and months running up to this election, as one of the blogs on our France 24's websites points out. Caroline Clarkson looks at the extent to which on his social media pages he was, for example, talking up the record of Viktor Orban just over the border in Hungary, saying that he deserved the Nobel Peace Prize for his tough stance on immigration. He's even spoken about being in favour of a moderate dictatorship. So, in any case, a sort of a prominent voice in favour of the far right in Austria.
Well, yeah, and you mentioned across the borders as well in Hungary, but also in France, lots of people looking at how the far right is increasingly becoming mainstream here.
That's right, and a very good example of it this weekend was this lady, Nadine Morano. She is a representative of Les Républicains, the centre-right party. Now, she made quite a controversial remark this weekend, talking about how La Gare du Nord is basically not France, it's Africa. That is one of the central train hubs in Paris. Well, the far-right leader, Florian Philippot, criticised her for her choice of language, saying to talk about the Gare du Nord being Africa is divisive language. You have to be careful about the language you use, and you have to elevate the tone of the political debate. So this is the far-right criticising the centre-right party, candidate of the centre-right party, for the choice of language, which shows the extent to which centrist parties are having trouble now trying to stop the stem of, or the flow of votes to the far right, so they're actually adopting the same political discourse. So when you have the far right criticising the centre right for political language, that's a sign of the times, I think.
It is, absolutely. James Creedon, thank you very much, with a look at the politics on the internet there. And that's it for this half hour, but I'll be back with plenty more news after the break. Do stay with us if you can.